Hello, you're listening to E-Bible Fellowship's new open forum excerpts, and now we present the following excerpt.
Welcome to our open forum program. Please go ahead with your call.
Yes, hi. My question to you is, if God already knew in advance that he would only save Noah and his family, why would there be a necessity for Noah to go and preach if God already knew there was going to be people that were not deemed to be saved? The same as now. I mean, salvation, I think from when it started, the door has been shut to the unsaved anyway.
I understand what you're asking and getting at. And it's true, God has established salvation before the world was. Ephesians
Right.
clearly tells us he predestinated certain ones to be saved. That was before the foundation of the world. And we have learned that Jesus bore the sins of those chosen individuals at the foundation of the world and died for them. And no one but those who were elect would become saved. And yet throughout history, in the day of salvation, which is now past, but there was a very long period of salvation, even in New Testament era, 1955 years of the church age, salvation was possible. Then about 17 years of latter rain and great multitude saved. And the way that the gospel was designed was that it was God who knew the elect, and no one on earth knew. I didn't know, you didn't know, nobody knew. And so from man's perspective, everyone had opportunity. And you see, when you give men opportunity, as you started out saying, no one has free will, well, actually they do. But in the book of Joshua, that famous verse? Well, let me turn there. In Joshua 24, it says in verse 15, and if it seem evil unto you to serve Jehovah, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served, that were on the other side of the flood, that's really the word river, the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Jehovah. You see, there's the choice. If it seem evil to you to serve Jehovah, then there's options. Choose you this false god or choose you that false god. And that's what, when men are left to themselves, that's what they do. They choose false religions, they choose false gospels, they choose to be atheists, they choose to be secularists, or, I'm just going to live my life, think nothing about any of it. And yet none will go to God on God's terms. That's why it was absolutely necessary for God to draw. No man, Jesus said, can come to me except the Father which sent me draw him. And the word draw, when we look at it, it's a very violent word. It's a very forceful word. The Apostle Paul was in the temple and they thought he had brought a Gentile in. And then we read that there were practically a riot took place and they drew him out of the temple. How do you think they drew him out? Did they come up to Paul wanting to kill him, and they were so angry with him and say, "Excuse me, sir, will you follow us out the door?" It wasn't gentle at all. They grabbed him in whatever way they possibly could by the hair, all kinds of men dragging him, who knows, very forcefully took him from the place he was out of the temple. And that's what God does. He takes us in the place we were in the world and draws us to him by force, because before we're saved, we don't go willingly. It's contrary to our will. It's contrary to our lusts, our sinful desires. We are basically dragged like the fishes in John 21. They're caught. They're caught in the net. They no longer have any say. They were happily swimming along in the sea, and suddenly they're caught in a net. That net represents the kingdom of God. That's the will of God. Remember, Jesus told them when they caught nothing, cast your net on the right side of the ship, directed by Christ. And then that's where a great multitude of fishes were. And they all were caught and they couldn't get out of the net. They were probably wiggling and trying their best to escape, get out of the net. That's a good illustration of how many of us were as the gospel began calling us, and we're doing everything we can, squirming, wiggling, trying to get loose and go back to our past life, go back to our sinful pleasures. Can't do it. The net doesn't break. The net doesn't break for the true elect children of God. And then we're taken. We're taken. And of course, the wonderful thing in John 21 is that's a picture of God saving the great multitude out of the great tribulation. And for a time, they were not able to be drawn. So there is our hope for many in this time period. Well, maybe God did save this man who's an atheist still. Maybe God did save this, one of my loved ones who is giving no indication of salvation, because there's this short period of time. They're in the net, so they're saved already. Like everyone to be saved has been saved. It's not a matter of becoming saved, but because of the great number, they were not drawn. So there's a delay in drawing, a delay in God's forcefulness in taking them and bringing them to himself, until we read in John 21, Jesus says, bring of the fish which you have caught. And then they drew the fish to him. There's the command. There was that period of delay, and then it's activated.
Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for more new open forum excerpts that will be added periodically.